Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to the Safe Streets Coalition meeting. We're glad you chose to be with us today so we can now meet in person. As usual, YouTube will be sent to you and a survey as well. So if you would complete that survey and return it to me, I would greatly appreciate it. The PARS staff today joining us is Mandy Shikansky. She's our Executive Director. Lynn Smith, up here, he's a Community Prevention Consultant. Maddie Timmish, she's at the back, Community Education and Media Specialist. And I'm Judy Wilson, Office Manager and National Night Out Program Coordinator. So please contact any of us. We'll be glad to help you with any questions or issues that you have. The agenda today is just published for your information, but you also have it on your tables. We normally have a champion of character, but today we're going to recognize our National Night Out neighborhoods. So we have Sherry Poling from Arbor Valley. Is she here? Okay. And they're at Arbor Valley Senior Living, and this is their first event. Likens Foster, Susan. Coach Slight West, Dana. Deb from Historic North Topeka East NIA. Rhonda Klein, is she here? Okay. Don Fortin with Tennessee Town. And from our Rolling Meadows, Max and I represent ours. So we're glad to have you all here today. Thank you very much. National Night Out is Saturday, August 7th, so you see all these t-shirts around and probably have our billboards up. You've probably seen that, or information on the marquees. So we want to welcome you to the activities for the week. This includes the kickoff party on Friday night at Hy-Vee, parking lot at 29th and Wanamaker. It's from 5:30 to 7:30. Alpha Media and Hy-Vee planned the kickoff party, and we really appreciate all their hard work. We do have a lot of sponsors, and I would kind of like to just mention those as well. Evergy, Topeka, Alpha Media, Hy-Vee, Prairie Band, Potawatomi Nation, Reesers, Dillon's, Cortez Transportation, Parks and Rec, Frito-Lay. We have the Highway Patrol, the Sheriff's Office, the District Attorney, and the Police Department, and also the Topeka Credit Union Foundation. So we really appreciate all their help, and we had a carryover from Federal Home Loan Bank from 2019, so that's helping us this year as well. So we're really glad about there. I would like to give you information on where you find the events. People are asking about that. So you can go to our Google map that we'll have posted on our National Night Out Facebook page, so it's NNO Topeka, Facebook, the safestreets.org website, parstopeka.org website, and it'll probably be on the media as well. So we will get that information out this afternoon to everyone. As I mentioned, we normally do the champion of character, and I did put the applications on your table. So if you have anyone that you would like to be nominated for a champion of character, if you would just fill that out and send it back to me, that would be great. I did fail to mention a minute ago, we do have our proclamations for National Night Out. We have one from the mayor, and we also have one for the governor for National Night Out, and we appreciate their support each year. I think I have some other neighborhoods that just came in. Carl Frazier's here. Do we have any others? Sarah, is she here yet? No, okay. Well, we'll go on then. We do have the July minutes that are posted for you. I did send these email, so we won't read through that or anything like that, and there is no action needed. But this is just for your records because it will be on a YouTube, so you'll have it, you can refer to it later. Our staff update for July includes neighborhood watch meetings. And right now, neighborhoods are beginning to get back together. We do have 5 neighborhood meetings this past month, and so we hope to have many more. They were Crestview, Valley Park, Rolling Meadows, Whispering Pines, and Oakland. Also, we've not had, as I mentioned, not a lot of face-to-face with the neighborhoods, so we are still sending emails for safety information along, and hopefully this will help until we can get back face-to-face. There are approximately 840 emails and phone calls, and that's just for the month of July. That's for information for National Night Out, for Neighborhood Watch, or other issues that might come up in the neighborhoods. So we've been fairly busy on the phone and by email. I did want to mention some of the information about the retailers and IFO meetings. We didn't have any that were held in July, but we did send in information to 409 people to keep them updated. I'd like to draw your attention to our Facebook pages. We have a lot of new information on there for Lock It, Remove It, or Lose It. That's the one that, take everything out of your car, don't leave something in that someone can see and take. So there were 176 people that reached out there on their Facebook. Also, there's information on your table about Lock It, Remove It, or Lose It. And if you have any questions or need more information about that, you could contact Nikki. There's Nikki. And she'll be able to help you with that. Of course, our National Night Out Facebook, we do have a lot of people now checking, especially for all the events. There were 206 so far just in July. The Safe Streets Coalition Facebook, we had 349 people to check it, and that shares information about some of our upcoming trainings. The Substance Abuse Task Force met this time in person. We've been just everything by virtual, but now we had a meeting in July in person. There were 10 attending that. And you will want to check the Prevention and Resiliency Services Facebook because more information is posted there. You'll see there's 18,529 people that have looked at that for information. And the Latino, we had 785 just on the Latino Facebook page. So keep it up, share the information with others, and we'll put more information out there for you. We're happy today to have Sergeant Dan Wilson to speak with us about the crime stats.
First off, I'd like to applaud Judy and her staff on National Night Out. For most of us, this is a couple hours on a Saturday in August, no big deal. But I know they work on it year-round and spend a ton of hours, especially this week and this month, working on that to put this on for all of us, for all of our neighborhoods, for all of our ages, you name it. So it's a wonderful event. I've said this before getting into community policing, I had little to no idea, I'm embarrassed to say, what National Night Out was. Once I joined the community policing unit, National Night Out's probably one of the best events nationally that goes on every year. So if you have the opportunity, go out to your neighborhood, meet somebody new, reconnect, especially after the last year and a half with your neighbors. So we'll be out there. We're going to try to hit every neighborhood. We may or may not see you. It's a stretch to get to everywhere, but we'll be there. We'll also be there Friday night at Hy-Vee. If you come out and want to see us, talk to us, complain about us, we're there for the all the above. So on the crime stats, as you can see, we have the weekly, monthly, and year-to-date. Year-to-date looks really good. Monthly, on the violent crime, we've got a little bit of a spike going on. We've made some arrests on some of these cases. Some of them are active cases. So we're really, like I said, pushing. If you know something, if you see something, even if you think it's minimal, let us know, especially with all the cameras that are out there nowadays. We've had a couple cases here recently where somebody's Ring doorbell caught something that they didn't think was important, which turned out, to help solve a case. So, like I said, all the little pieces are what we need and the help we ask for from you guys. On the property crime, again, we have the weekly, monthly, yearly data. Again, yearly data looks amazing. I don't know what that's all about. We're doing a good job there, but monthly, you can see we've had, again, a little spike. Auto theft, vehicle burglary, and just general theft. It's summer months, people leaving their garages open, their bikes on their porch, their bikes out, stuff in the bed of their truck, stuff like that. Weed eaters, leaf blowers, all that stuff. I mean, it only takes a second for it to walk off, so make sure you're securing that, shut your garage doors. So we stole this from another agency, but at the end of the night, before you go to bed, do a little checklist. Make sure your car's locked, make sure your garage door's shut, make sure your interior door's shut, stuff like that, just to help yourself from being a victim. So one of the things on the theft that we've seen a little bit of an increase in again is the catalytic converters. I wish I had a good answer for how to prevent those. Best thing I can say is make sure, if you have lighting, park under lighting, leave lights on. So again, if you see something, if you're driving down the street on your way to the gym at 6 in the morning and there's somebody laying under a car, that's not normal. So we actually got lucky. Some officers spotted somebody over off Fairlawn a couple weeks ago. Same exact scenario. They saw them laying under the car. That's what they were doing. They caught them. So we've also, I know Judy touched on the retail and the bankers meetings. We've had some really good success. Actually, yesterday on a theft suspect who's a registered offender. He had been hitting Lawrence, Topeka. We ended up arresting him, and he went to jail for 7 theft cases and a couple registered offender violations. So if you know of a retailer or a financial institute, encourage them to be involved. They're good ways to partnership and share information. So other than that, like I said, go out on your national night out. School's getting ready to start. Start paying attention to school zones. If not, we'll help encourage that. I'd rather you know about it and think about it rather than us remind you. So, and then just the other stuff, watch out for kids and, kids doing kid stuff. So, does anybody have any questions? All right, thank you.
Sergeant Henry Harmon with the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office.
Good morning. As she just mentioned, my name is Sergeant Henry Harmon. I'm a fill-in. I know a few people in the room, but most I do not. I'm newly promoted as of December of last year. I am the hiring and recruiting administrative sergeant. So if this isn't as polished as the young man who went before me, I apologize. Just have some few stats up here for you. As of year to date, we have 214 burglary and theft cases. And as you can see, that is well below what we were last year at this point, well projected. And we projected to do very well in comparison to last year, and much, much better than the previous 2 years, 18th and 19th. Meth arrests are way up, and before I go on, I would like to say that none of this is solely on law enforcement's behalf, our department or PD, without the partnerships with the community, without the phones ringing, the 911 calls, the tips that come into our tip line, these numbers would be way down. When we drive the neighborhood, people are generally on their best behavior, but when they feel comfortable, when they don't see us, that's when they get into mischief, and that's when it's important for you guys to let us know what's going on and be good witnesses and point us in the right direction. Meth arrests are way up. Again, that's a testament to the partnership the Sheriff's Office and Police Department has with the citizens of Shawnee County. We project to be well over 2020. 2020, we had 206 arrests, and we're at 77 already with another four and a half months to go for this year. I don't want to say we're doing a great job. I think we as a community are doing a great job of cleaning up our streets. Again, this is going to sound like a broken record, but felons in possession of firearms, we are equal right now in August with what we did in 2019. We are gaining on 2020 numbers. We're projected to surpass that by the end of the year. Again, that's not solely on law enforcement. That's the men and women in our community making us aware of where the problems are at and helping us with those problems. Seized firearms, yeah, we're up there. Again, I would like to say the men and women of the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office do a great job, but they're not superheroes. They can't do it alone. We can't do it alone. If the phones don't ring, our numbers would be way down. Help us keep this neighborhood safe, as the PD officer spoke before me. Yeah, if you see something, say something. If something looks odd in your neighborhood, who knows your neighborhood better than you do? If something looks odd, make that phone call. We can at least go out and put eyes on it ourselves and make those contacts and ask them to explain why or what's going on. We have professional officers on both sides of the house, and we do that very well, but we got to know there's a problem before we can help solve them. And just on the end, school is starting. We're going to put a lot of stuff out on our social media accounts that keep you aware of where the schools, I mean, not where the school zones are at, everyone knows that, when they start at different times. So be aware of what different events are going on in different parts of the county. So stay plussed up on our social media accounts, and we'll be putting things out. And this is how you can reach us at 251-2200. Again, my name is Sergeant Harmon, and I am the hiring and recruiting guy. So I would be remiss if I didn't say, hey, if you know someone who is interested in a job, whether it be dispatch, we have record clerks, and obviously we have men and women that we want to, good men and women that we want to put in uniform. Call this number, ask to speak with me, or pass that information along to someone that is possibly interested in becoming a Shawnee County Sheriff employee. I thank you for your time.
I usually don't want to come back up here, but I forgot something I was going to mention. I wanted to acknowledge Officer Lister, who works in our PAL program, Boys and Girls Club, our boxing program. He coached a softball team of young ladies over at Dornwood this season. They just finished up their season. They got first in league and second in their tournament. He put in a lot of hard work. He did a lot of YouTubing. So I don't think he has a future in coaching, but he did a good job with these girls. So I wanted to just acknowledge that, and along the same lines as Deputy Harmon said, you know, recruiting and hiring, we're both hurting. We need help. If you know somebody or are interested, like I said, point them in the right direction. So it's our community, it's our job to recruit and hire people for the next generation. So thank you.
I told you this wasn't going to be polished, and I forgot to ask if there's any questions, and we do have one. I apologize.
That's all right. Thank you, Sergeant. I just wanted to ask, with regards to the seized firearms,
Yes.
if you can tell me or tell the group, under what circumstances are those firearms being seized? Search warrants, car stops, in relation to the meth rise or anything like that? Give us an idea of under what circumstances you're having the opportunity to seize those firearms.
Sure. All the above is a simple question, but generally they're on, I call it dope, because that encompasses a lot between meth, heroin, all drugs. When we serve search warrants, generally, if we have narcotics in addition to firearms, those aren't law-abiding citizens, possessing those firearms for safety or for sport. So generally, those are included in the search warrant, and the courts will allow us to seize those firearms and go through the process of, the court hearings and the trials and everything else until we are made to give those back. And in many cases, if they are seized in a drug search warrant or a drug house or a house we've did an investigation on, those firearms are never returned. But again, car stops, felons in possession of firearms, we seize those. Firearms used in crimes, we seize those. And when we have a firearm, generally, there's a few exceptions, but generally, we hold on to those firearms until the courts gives us a mandate to return those. And then it's out of our control, and we have to at that point.
Thank you.
So,
The firearms that are not returned,
yes.
what do y'all do with those?
We turn them over to the KBI, and I know they have a firearm library where they try to have one of each type of firearm, but what they do with them after that, I do not know. We turn our firearms to the KBI. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am?
About the bar and band notice that we can issue to a tenant.
I didn't
Bar
hear
and
you.
band. Do you guys honor the bar and band notices? For bar and band?
Bar and band notice?
Do you guys honor those? Like if you have to come out to someone's house and it's private property and we've, like, as a landlord, I've issued a bar and band. I was told that they won't, they'll go up, you guys will go up and knock on the door if I know the person is there that I need to serve it to, but they won't make them leave if they say they're not home.
Or
They're not at the house.
are you speaking such as like trespassing orders,
Yeah,
basically?
like criminal trespassing.
And we will always attempt to make that contact for you, knocking on the door, but we can't break that threshold without the courts giving us a search warrant or something that says we are permitted to go in and look for this or that person. So yes, we'll make that contact, and if we have the contact, we'll serve them with those orders, those trespassing orders or those PFA orders. But if they choose not to answer the door, there's generally not a whole lot we can do because that is a Fourth Amendment right they have.
How would we go about getting them off the property if we know for a fact that they're in that home?
And that would be a question for a good attorney. I know you would have to go through the court system and have a order drawn up, something that we can enforce. Just me telling you, you can't be here, that may work for temporary status, but for the long haul, we need a court order. We need the state of Kansas, a judge mandating that for us.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions? Thanks for having me.
Well, I just want to take a quick second and just echo Judy's sentiments to all of our folks that are here from the neighborhoods today for National Night Out and who have coordinated events for their neighborhoods, who've come to the planning meetings. A lot of you are becoming familiar faces, and I just really appreciate the work that you're doing in our community. Additionally, law enforcement, we could not do this work without you, so thank you so much for all that you're doing to support National Night Out. And Judy Wilson, holy cow, she is a dynamo. If you don't know her, she eats, breathes, sleeps National Night Out, and she has all of us running at the office. So I'm really excited to be a part of this, and I think we'll have a great weekend. But to get to the most important part of our meeting, responsible gun ownership is critical and so important to the safety of the owner, their family, and our community. Today, we are so fortunate to have two experts to help us increase awareness and understanding in regards to safety. First up, we have Major Russ Klump from the Topeka Police Department, and following him will be Deb Boatwright, a lead at Be Smart. I hope you'll find their messages powerful and are able to glean new information to share amongst your community circles. So please join me in welcoming Major Klump.
You go slide forward for me. Cool. All right. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I see a lot of familiar faces out there. Some of you don't know me. I would like to first of all follow up with Sergeant Harmon's plea for any references, referrals for dispatchers specifically. Dispatchers, if you don't know, we have a consolidated dispatch center, which means they dispatch for many agencies, including us, AMR is in there. But they do a lot of work behind the scenes that you may not even see. They are the lifeline for us out on the streets, okay? And if they aren't there to do their job, then 911 doesn't work, our coordination on the streets doesn't work, it all starts to fall apart without the dispatchers. They're the hub of our wheel, okay? So please, if you know of anybody who might be interested in that kind of work, please refer them over to Sergeant Harmon and at least have them have that conversation with him. It might be the career they've been looking for, and they may be who we're looking for. So just wanted to echo that sentiment as well. So I've been asked to give a brief presentation on responsible gun ownership. This is a topic that is always a topic of conversation. Sometimes it's more timely than it is at other times. We've recently had an unfortunate series of accidental shootings, some involving children and young adults. So, you know, that makes it even more important now than ever to bring this topic up and rehash. So one of the things I always ask when I'm listening to a speaker is, why should I even listen to this person, right? Why, just because he has a shiny badge on doesn't make him an expert in all things. Well, I'll give you just two pieces real quick. First of all, the law enforcement side, I'm in my 27th year with the Topeka Police Department. I've gone through the ranks up to major. I've seen a lot, done a lot. One of the things that I did for about 4 to 5 years was participate in a federal task force with the ATF. And we did, it was focused on violent crimes, but a majority of gun trafficking and drug-related gun crimes, those types of things. The felon in possession crimes was kind of the hallmark of the task force, which continues to this day our partnership with them, as well as several other federal agencies. But I spent a great deal of time on that task force as well. On the people side, I'm going to be talking about some human behavior things and those types of things. I do have a doctorate in social psychology, so I know a little bit about human behavior and those kinds of things as well. So as I get into that part, you know, I do know a little bit of what I'm talking about there too. So, all right. So I just want to get this one out of the way. America is an armed society. The Second Amendment guarantees that. Until that Second Amendment is changed or eliminated, that will always be the case. So the point here is there are going to be guns in our society. There will be. It's just a fact. Whether those guns are legally owned or illegally owned, they are going to be out there. And that's not going to change anytime in the foreseeable future. So what we need to do is look at this issue not from the angle per se of gun prohibition, although that's a piece, but also from responsible gun ownership. Those who own those firearms legally need to be responsible with those firearms to prevent other problems and things down the road. Okay. So how do bad guys and gals, how do bad people get firearms? Well, a variety of ways. Most of the firearms, the crime guns as we call them, firearms used in crimes, most of those we find are stolen at some point. They're not generally the purchasing owner of that firearm who's using it in a crime. They're stolen in a variety of ways. They're stolen out of the homes. They're stolen out of the cars. And I'll get to that in a second. That's a big one. But they're generally stolen and taken onto the streets and released. Most criminals aren't stealing the firearms for themselves. They're stealing those firearms to finance whatever it is they are trying to accomplish at the time. Guns are currency on the street. You can go to a drug house and trade a gun for drugs. You can go to an area of prostitution, trade guns to the pimp for sex and favor. So there's a lot of reasons that these guns get on the street. The guns from, let me also make a quick point. In my experience, I have found more often that criminals are more crafty than they are stupid. All right? We shouldn't assume that criminals are dumb people. They are crafty, they're survivors, and they always seem to find a way to get things done. In that regard, homes and cars become priority targets for them over the gun stores. You would think, well, here's a whole store full of guns. Why don't they just go in there and take all the guns, right? Well, again, they're not stupid. And they know that hitting a gun store is a federal crime. And they're going to see federal time if they rob a gun store. Whereas burglary, car burglary, that type of thing is a lower level crime, still has consequences and punishments, but it is significantly less severe than the federal crime of hitting a gun store. Okay? I want to talk a minute about firearms in vehicles. We come across this quite a bit, and we run across this from the reporting side. Someone comes to us with a report of their car getting broken into, and their guns are taken from the vehicle. Okay? I use the term broken into loosely because a majority of the firearms taken from vehicles are taken from vehicles that are unlocked. So they leave their firearm in the vehicle, they leave it unlocked, and lo and behold, somebody comes along, looks inside the car, finds their gun, and takes off with it. Okay? This is an ongoing issue, and it's not one with a simple solution. It's hard to conceive that a common person would not understand the importance of keeping that firearm secured, but it happens, and it happens a lot. 123 reported, we don't know how many were taken, but we know 123 were reported last year, stolen from vehicles. This year so far, we've had 36 reported. All of those guns are going out onto the streets, right? So that's a lot of firearms out there that shouldn't be out there just from the vehicle thefts, okay? So in the home, what can we do to be responsible with those firearms? Folks who legally own firearms can do a lot to secure them inside the home, okay? You can store them in a gun safe or a locking gun box. That's the preferable method. There are a wide array of different kinds of gun boxes, and I'll have some examples here in a second. Different gun boxes and gun safes. There's a wide array, different range of prices, those kinds of things. It doesn't have to be something fancy. Now, they do cost money, but if you're going to buy a firearm, you should go into it understanding that you're also going to have to buy the things that keep that weapon safe, right? So if you buy a car, you're going to understand that eventually you're going to have to change the tires. You may have to do some maintenance. You're going to have to get the oil changed. There's going to be expenses that come along with owning a car. It's the same with a gun, all right? There's going to be those additional expenses that you should incorporate into your decision to purchase a firearm in the first place. All right, that should include a gun safe or a locking gun box inside the home. Most of the folks we come across who are legal owners of firearms don't own an arsenal. They usually own one or two weapons. You know, there are folks out there that own a lot of guns, all right? But most of the time, the people we encounter own one or two firearms, usually handguns, in the home. That's aside from hunting rifles, shotguns, that kind of thing. But they almost always understand that there's a need to lock them up. Not everybody does it. A lot of people say it, a lot of people talk about it, they say they understand it, but their behavior tells otherwise, that they are ignoring that fact. Here's some examples of some home gun boxes. You can see they're pretty simple. They're just a box that locks with either a combo code. Some have biological fingerprint scanners. Some you can get as fancy as you want on them. Some have keys, those kinds of things. Many of them have holes in the bottom that you can bolt it down to the floor in your closet or whatever you want to bolt it down to so that they can't just take the box and run out of your house, those kinds of things. But it doesn't take a lot of research to find one that will fit your budget and fit the purpose for the firearm in your home. Okay? Go ahead. All right. This is not appropriate. Back in the day, these were very popular, gun display cases. So you wouldn't own a safe, you'd own a display case, protected only by a pane of glass. So these are ineffective, not real responsible, and pretty much say, hey, look, I have a lot of guns, and they're not hard to take. Sorry? Yeah. Gun safes, again, a wide array. These are more expensive, but if you have the long guns and those kind of things, this is probably what you're going to need to look for. All right? They have, again, combos, key codes, biometrics, all the fancy stuff you want, or as basic as you want. Okay? The key here is to have something to secure your firearm in that's not easy to get into, not easy to haul away. Okay, go ahead. Gun locks. Gun locks, cable locks such as the one I have here. I'm going to touch on these for just a minute. First of all, let me say that we work with Project Child Safe to provide these for free to anyone who wants them. The sheriff's office has them at the front desk. We have them at the front desk, and they're available for free. I brought a handful here. If you happen to want one, just come see me and grab one. These are okay as a last resort option. If you absolutely don't have a gun box or a gun safe, this is a good last resort option. And I say that because they are effective at securing the firearm if used properly. But once a child reaches the age of about 12-ish and they can understand how to use tools and such, these are not impervious. They can be defeated, okay, and fairly easily. So I say that this is a good last resort option because you're doing something to keep it safe, and it keeps it out of the hands of the young children, the curious ones who are going in there. They have no idea even what they're holding or messing around with. Disarming your firearm and putting a cable lock in there goes a long way toward preventing any tragedies in that regard. Okay, so something to think about. These are free and available. Okay. All right. So speaking of accidents, so we're talking about securing your firearms in your home, right? Part of security is knowledge of how to access that secured area, whatever it is. You know, whether your house has an alarm and you have the alarm code, or your locker has a lock on it, or whatever. These are the same things. If you get a gun safe or a gun box and you have your method of accessing that, only give that information to those in your household who need to have that information, okay? If anyone you give it to is going to be able to get in and access those firearms, which defeats the whole purpose of securing it if everybody knows where they are, especially the children, okay? Train regularly. This is one that comes up from time to time, but quite frankly, probably not enough. There are a lot of folks out there who want a firearm for a variety of reasons. Peaceful reasons, defense reasons, whatever that may be. Not everyone gives enough thought to training with those firearms. They think firearms are easy. I just put the bullets in and pull the trigger. True, it is that easy. But where is that bullet going to go? Can you control it? Can you control when it's going to go off and when it doesn't go off? Okay? Now, I'm not going to get into firearm safety here. That's a whole different presentation. I would encourage anyone who has questions in that regard, wants to purchase a firearm and be safe with it, to seek out a hunter safety course or some other expert in that regard that could help provide the information necessary to stay safe. As law enforcement, we carry guns all the time, but we train with them all the time. We know a lot about our firearms, how to take them apart, how to put them together, how to load them, how to stay safe, all that stuff, okay? if you own a firearm in society and you haven't trained with it, then you can be more of a danger than a help. That's my point there, okay? It's not Hollywood. You got to understand their power, right? You got to understand how they function, how to be safe with them. Guns are a lot more powerful than you think, all right? One of the things I did with my children, they're teenagers now, and I've gotten the firearms and shot through boards, like 2x4s. I have them press on the board, and I have them press on their skin. I say, which one's harder, okay? And then they say, well, the wood's harder. I say, right, look what it did to this piece of wood. You know, understand what it's going to do to a person if it strikes a body. You got to understand this conceptually, okay? So one of the common accidental injuries that we see is people cleaning their firearms. Again, you got to train with it. Part of the training is how to clean it. A lot of people sit down and they think, well, I'm going to clean this firearm while I watch TV and drink a beer. That is never a good idea. Sometimes it ends badly, right, with a hole in your leg or whatever. But we see this, and it's not as uncommon as you might think, right? You need to understand how to clean that firearm safely and never multitask with it. If that's what you're doing, that's what you're doing. You're going to miss something important, and it could end badly, okay? Satisfy a child's curiosity. This is a point I put in here because I think it's very important. This is my social psychology hat talking here. It's very important to acknowledge that children are curious. And if you don't satisfy that curiosity, they will, right? They will. And they will, if they can get access to the firearm and they have curiosities about it, they are going to mess with it, trying to satisfy that curiosity. Again, it's a formula for disaster when that happens. If you have children in the home and you are a gun owner, please give strong consideration to familiarizing your child with the firearm, letting them ask questions, explaining how it works, explaining how dangerous they are, explaining the basics of how to hold them safely. Try to diffuse all those little points of curiosity. We all remember being children and how curious we were about all the unknowns in life, especially something we see on TV all the time in the action films, right? So give some serious thought to educating and diffusing some of these curiosities of your children. Because like I said, if you don't, they will. And that can always end in tragedy, okay? Again, I pointed this out, never mix alcohol, drugs with firearms. A little note there, this can include medications. If you have warnings on your medications that says don't operate machinery, then you should probably not be holding a firearm either. All right, just a little thought there. If you are using a medication, temporary or otherwise, give some thought to that as well. Okay. All right, and that's all I have for my presentation. Real quick, are there any questions? Yes, sir.
There's a place for training to operate a firearm.
I didn't hear the first part of that. Where?
There's a place we recommend a place to go for training
Okay.
to operate a firearm safely.
There are a number of firearms trainers locally and regionally that are accessible, and they market in a wide range of different approaches. So if they have some specifically for females who want to carry guns in their purses, they have general ones who, just the general basic safety of firearms. I mentioned Hunter's Education. Hunter's Education is long-standing, time-proven program that provides a lot of that basic information on firearm safety and that kind of thing. There are private individuals who provide that. There are local gun ranges, which are a resource. You can find gun trainers and gun instructors there as well. I would just caution you that if you go that route, and get a private gun instructor. Be sure they are who you think they are. Be sure they know what they say they know, because you can go on YouTube today and find a lot of folks on there that really have no idea or business talking about what they're talking about on YouTube. So you need to be careful about who you choose, to provide you that information.
Last question.
Yes, sir.
As an African American that carries a firearm,
Yes, sir.
what's the right procedure if we get approached by a police officer?
Okay. Thank you for asking that. And I'm going to answer that with a generality. Yep. Yep. The answer I'm going to provide you will protect everybody. Okay. If you are armed with a firearm and you're approached by a police officer, the first thing I would tell you is make sure your hands are visible. As police officers, we watch your hands. That's the primary thing we're going to watch. We watch your hands, we watch your body language, and we look for indicators of weapons. All right? That's the primary thing we look for. Make sure your hands are visible. All right? If they're approaching you, make sure you tell the officers, hey, I'm an armed citizen. I'm an armed citizen. Okay? So that they know. Surprises in police encounters are bad. Right? No one likes that to happen, especially us, and when that happens, it leads to immediate, because now things are ticking in pieces of seconds, right? Things are happening very fast, very quickly, and it doesn't give you time to think and process through what all's happening, and things can fall apart very quickly in those scenarios. Hands are visible. Hey, I'm an armed citizen, can I help you? All right, officer says, can I see your ID? Whether you're standing or in a seat and you have a weapon on your side. I'm an armed citizen, my wallet's in my back pocket, can I reach for it now? The officer say, sure, go ahead. And they may take a stance, just a protective stance, that kind of thing. Don't take offense to that. It's just the officer trying to be safe, right? It's not an act of aggression, it's just the officer is thinking, okay, he's told me, or she has told me, this person's told me that they're armed. They told me that their wallet's in their back pocket. But is it real or is it a ruse so they can get to their gun? I have to be ready either way it goes. That's what that's about, right? So hands are visible, acknowledge to the officer verbally, I have a weapon on me, and I'm going to go for my wallet now. Is it okay? The officer says yes. Now everybody's ready for that motion here, right? Especially if it's concealed and you have to brush your shirt back to get to your wallet. Now the gun pops open and is exposed. And if the officer doesn't know that, there's going to be some reaction to that. Okay? And this applies to everybody. I appreciate your perspective. I truly do. And I always like to provide an answer that protects everybody. Everybody needs to do this, regardless of race or creed, because these are the things that keep people safe. These are the things that mitigate misperceptions, misunderstandings, jerk reactions, those kinds of things that lead to tragedy. Okay? Did I answer that okay for you? All right. All right. Any other questions? All right. Very good. Thank you.
Hi, thanks so much for inviting me to this today. My name is Deb Boatwright, and I'm the State Be Smart Lead for Kansas. I live in Lawrence, and I'm here on behalf of your Topeka Be Smart team because they're all ladies who are a little younger than me, and they've got children and or are educators, and needless to say, this ended up being a really busy week for them. So I'm here today. I live in Lawrence. I'm a retired educator, a mother of two, grandmother of two, and my children and my grandchildren live in Topeka. So what you guys are doing here is really important, and what your Topeka Be Smart volunteers are doing is really important to me personally. I'm here to talk about a subject that's very dear to my heart, keeping children safe from gun violence. Be Smart is a program developed by Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America to bring together parents and all adults concerned about kids, guns and safety. Now, I want to emphasize that phrase, all adults. It is the strong stance of our Be Smart program that the responsibility for keeping kids safe is on us. We don't teach kids to keep themselves safe around guns, all right? Ours is not a child education program, it's an adult education program. I'm gonna go through a brief version of a presentation we do that takes about 20 to 25 minutes with then a time for questions, and I know we don't have that kind of time today. So you're not gonna get as much detail, not quite as much research, but I'm gonna give you your contact information for Topeka volunteers and mine, so that if you've got a group or an organization who would like to hear our complete presentation, please contact us. I also want to say, if you have those concerns about inviting us, Be Smart is not a political program. We're never going to get political. It's not about laws and policies. We set those aside so that we can discuss this really important issue. Next one. Firearms are the second leading cause of death for children in this country. It's the first leading cause of death for Black children. And I learned recently that in the state of Kansas, it's become the leading cause of death. When children are killed in America with guns, the majority of those deaths, about 800, are homicides, and nearly 100 of them are unintentionally shot and killed. That number has gone up during the pandemic. We've had an intersection of a lot of people buying guns and a lot of kids at home. So that's a pre-pandemic number, and I'm not sure where it is now. I just know that indications are it went up during the last year. In addition, 600 children die by firearm suicide each year. This slide highlights the role of guns in suicide, and I'm going to talk more about this later. But at one point, a survey of high school kids said that 17% of them have considered suicide within the last year, and 41% of teenagers have told us that they have easy access to the guns in their home. That's a bad combination, and we'll talk more about that as we go on. Okay, not all of the deaths I've talked about can be prevented, but a lot of them can. We can be smart. This is an acronym for a few simple common sense actions that can be taken by every one of us. And I put postcards on your table. There should be enough for everybody to have one. If you didn't get one, talk to me after the presentation. I'm going to give you a real brief version of what I'd say at our community presentation covering all of these parts of the Be Smart program. We'll start with the S, which is for secure your guns in homes and vehicles. It's wonderful following this gentleman's presentation as far as this part of it goes. Thank you very much for what you said. This is the heart of the Be Smart campaign. Guns should be stored, locked, and unloaded with ammunition separate. Hiding a gun is not securing a gun. Children are curious, children are resourceful. They're gonna find what they wanna find. Anyone who's ever hidden Christmas presents knows that, right? Okay. Unsecured guns at home can result in children injuring or killing themselves or others. Frequently, the child finds a gun and hurts somebody else. Unsecured guns in vehicles are stolen and end up in the hands of criminals, which the officer just talked about. And in incidents of gunfire on school grounds, the majority of shooters under the age of 18 obtained the gun either from home or from the home of a friend or relative. The presence of a gun in the home also increases the likelihood of a suicide attempt being fatal, okay? And we're going to talk more about that when we get on to the R. Again, guns need to be stored locked, unloaded, with ammunition separate. The M is for modeling responsible behavior. Modeling responsible behavior first means doing what we talked about in S, making sure that guns are not accessible to children. That said, you can't always control the environment that your child is in, so you should teach them not to touch a gun, get away from it, find an adult. With older kids, teenagers, give them the resources to get out of a dangerous situation. Same way you do with alcohol. Call me, no questions asked, I'll come and get you. Guns are the same thing. Guns show up at parties. So make sure you talk to them about that. But, and this is one of my favorite lines in Be Smart, that's a precaution, not a guarantee. If your children have always done everything you've taught them to do when you're not around, you're a way more effective parent than I ever was, okay? So the only guarantee is if they can't access those guns in the first place. This is a piece of our program that I don't think anybody else talks about. Parents need to ask about firearms in other homes. There are approximately 4.6 million children in the U.S. who live in a household with a loaded, unlocked gun. I'm going to repeat that. There are a lot more than 4.6 million guns in this country, but there are that many kids living in a home where the gun is loaded and unlocked, okay? So asking about guns in other homes before your children visit should be part of your safety conversation that most parents have when kids go somewhere else. You talk about allergies, you talk about pets, you talk about car seats with teenagers, you talk about chaperoning and driving and alcohol. You need to make asking about, by the way, do you have a gun and how do you store it? Now that's really awkward. And so when we do the presentation, we do a little role playing, we make some suggestions as to how to do that. But I'll tell you, before we had to social distance all the time and we were doing lots of table events, a lot of younger parents are telling me, oh yeah, I do ask that question, and I've been asked that question, and it usually, no one's offended about it. They understand why you're asking, all right? So we would role play that and talk about it to make that conversation less difficult. We need to recognize the role of guns in suicide. Suicide has become a great concern in this country. When I first started doing this program, we said recognize the role of guns in teen suicide. You notice we've taken the word teen out. We're concerned about adults too right now when we talk about this. Most people who attempt suicide don't die unless they use a gun. More than 90% of suicide attempts with a gun result in death. That's much, much lower than any other means of self-harm. I think it's somewhere down around 20 or 25%. But if there's a gun involved, 90% of those suicide attempts will be fatal. Suicides right now make up more than half of the gun deaths in the US. So we talk a lot more about this in our presentation now. We talk about the importance of keeping guns secure, and we talk about if you've got someone in your home who's in distress and you think they're at risk, we talk about what you ought to do about getting guns maybe temporarily out of your home, okay, to prevent a tragedy. And again, we're just emphasizing this so much more than we used to because it's become more of a problem in recent years. The T is for tell, and that is the power of Be Smart, is if we talk to other people about these things. We hear from people who say that because of our presentations or our tabling events, they're starting to talk with friends and families about guns and about keeping children safe. We're recruiting more volunteers. Over the weekend, I just did a Zoom training with 18 volunteers around the state of Kansas. I think at least one of them, yeah, a couple of them from Topeka. We're talking with people, getting the word out. And some of the most effective communicators for Be Smart, we've learned, are people who do work with guns on a daily basis. We get lots of support for our program from law enforcement, military and ex-military, sports and hunting enthusiasts. those people do understand the importance of protecting children if you've got a firearm in the home. So they're important partners in this effort. So if we want you, I want you to be part of the T here, here's what you can do. If you'll go on to the next slide. The kinds of opportunities we like to take advantage of with our presentations, which again, I said take about 20 minutes plus some question and answer time, would be all the sort of things you're talking about here. Our Be Smart moms in Topeka are partnered with Pediatric Care. They've been partnered with Topeka 501. They recently handed out 130 gun locks, like you're talking about, at a camp drop-off initiative here in Topeka. So they are there and ready to help. Back to school nights, PTO, PTA meetings and activities, school board meetings, Board of Education, organizations that support schools, any kind of community events, health and wellness events that are doing tablings. I don't know if they're going to be at any of your night out, but I think National Night Out would be a great time to have the Be Smart message out there. So that's something maybe to think about for next year. So we have handouts and resources to share as well that you can give to people. So our contact information, part of the reason I put the little cards on is so that you can write this down. It's a very simple Gmail address for them, besmarttopeka@gmail.com. The website there is already on the card. That is our national website for Be Smart. It has lots of resources, videos, handouts you can print out, and it's a real good source to send people to. The final one is my email. As I said, I'm the state lead, and part of the reason I wanted to put that up there for you is that you may have contacts outside of this area who would be interested in having Be Smart participate in one of their events or meetings. So if you'll go to the next slide, sorry. That's where we've got local groups right now in the state of Kansas. So we've got them in several county areas. We're still working on western Kansas, but through east and central Kansas, quite a few. And during the pandemic, you know, one of those blessings of all of this distancing was that some of us learned how to use Zoom, and we found out that our rural volunteers either had to travel quite a ways to go to a meeting, or they just didn't have enough other people around to really form a group that was very effective. And so we now have a rural Kansas group that is virtual. So if you know someone or are connected with something outside of the Topeka, Shawnee County area and would be interested in having a Be Smart presentation or volunteers at a table, contact me and I'll get you in touch with our people in other areas. And that was really a fast going through our information. But if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Yes?
In the ask portion of your SMART program,
Yeah.
you also discuss asking people that come into your home. In the advent of
Yeah.
the concealed carry, I only mention this because I'm ex-military and I have a lot of friends that are ex-military, and a lot of them do concealed carry. And there should never be a gun in a vehicle. They should have it on them and not leave their vehicle in your driveway with,
Right.
you know, with a gun in it. But the problem is, especially for females, a lot of times they carry it in their purse. And they'll have the special purse for that. However, if they come into your home and there's children in there,
Right.
you've now got a problem that you don't even know. So, if it's not a part of your program, I would mention it because I've actually had that situation occur when I had toddlers in my home.
Thank you.
I was horrified.
No, thank you, because that has not come up before, at least for me. It maybe has.
Age, along with the males. The males almost easier because the majority of them are gonna have them strapped on them.
Right, right.
Whatever, but, and concealed that way. But for females, it becomes a different issue, because if they set that purse down
You're
on
right.
the table.
And I know a lot of toddlers who like to go into purses looking for fun things, you know, for gum and, yeah, and
Yes, so
stuff, yeah.
That might be something you consider adding.
No, thank you,
to that
thank you.
program.
I'm going to make a note of that, and we'll have, and, because I'm the state lead, I can even talk to some of our national leadership about how we maybe add that as a consideration. No, thank you. I appreciate that comment. Yeah. Anyone else with any questions? And if you think, you know, if the group, the kind of group we talked about wasn't up there and you would consider, you know, think it, go ahead and ask. We're often having someone say, would you present to this group? And, well, we haven't before, but sure we would, you know. So please contact us. I viewed this partly as kind of an advertisement for our program. So we would really like to be able to get this information out to more people. Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming today. I do want to touch on two things before we close. There is a yellow slip in the middle of your table, a sign in if you have not already. Please sign in for me. And then we have a coalition meeting survey. If you would please complete that and leave it on your table, we greatly appreciate it. I know we have had several other neighborhoods come in since I introduced earlier. Rhonda is here. She's from Pheasant Run. Do I have any other neighborhoods that have come in since? Okay, well, we really appreciate you coming today. As I said, you will receive a YouTube link and a survey in a few days, so you'll have that to review at your leisure. And we do appreciate you coming today, and find a National Night Out event and have a good time this weekend and Friday night at the kickoff. Thank you so much.